Hey, what's up everybody? It's Ben Strader. I'm here in the engine shop at EFI University and I have an awesome new product that I want to share with you guys today. If you've been watching our videos for a long time, you may have seen these before. I have talked about them before, but recently I actually took some and I put them to a real test on the dyno and I was blown away by the results. So I want to share them with you guys. So one of the things that we're known for here is doing really high RPM, naturally aspirated LS series engines. And because they're naturally aspirated, we have to work really hard, not only to make as much power as we can't just add boost or put some more nitrous to it, but when we make that power, we also have to try really hard to keep it. And that means reducing friction, drag, and keeping the engine sealed up well. Well, as it turns out, one of the, I consider the Achilles heels of the LS engine are the stock factory rear main and front main crankshaft seals. Now the job of the crankshaft seal is it sits in the cover here and it goes over the crankshaft snout or the rear of the crank and it keeps dirt and dust from getting into the engine and it holds the oil on the inside from getting out, right? Well, if you look at these factory seals, they're just not a really great piece. It's a fairly hard plastic, lots of friction going on there. The seal's pressed into the covers, so they're pretty easy to knock out and replace. And every time that we do an engine freshen up, we replace these seals because they're a real leak source for the engine. They just don't do a great job, and they rely heavily on mechanical tension, meaning a tight grip on that crankshaft to seal it, which means you're giving away friction and power. In fact, at one point, we actually did a test with a short block engine where we took a torque wrench and tried to measure how much friction it took to turn the engine. We had stock seals and then we put these low friction seals that I'm going to show you here in a minute in there, and it was less than 1/4 of the tension to spin the engine. What that tells me is there's a lot of effort that comes in engine rotation friction just from these front and rear seals. Now, a company called Fast Fish Auto Parts, a buddy of mine, got a hold of me maybe 2 years ago and he said, I got to show you these seals. They're really great. You know, we're making this rear main seal for an LS engine. So he sent me a couple to try and I was immediately impressed by them. They're actually made in the UK by a company called GST Seals and imported by FastFishAutoParts.com as well as Superior Bearings out of Florida. And this is a Teflon impregnated, meaning very low friction, double lipped, high vacuum seal. The high vacuum part was important to us because we run a lot of dry sump engines where we're constantly trying to scavenge as much out of the crankcase as possible. That reduces our pumping losses and increases our ring seal. So the more vacuum we can pull, the better. But one of the primary sources for air leakage in the engine happens to be that stock front and rear seal. So not only are they terrible for friction, but they really don't seal that well either. Well, in addition to the low friction Teflon impregnated high vacuum seals, they also sold us some of this Dayton Day-Lube, which is a nano ceramic racing grease. We put this stuff on there, we slide these things on and we get them centered up, and man, it really reduces the rotating friction of our engine. But if you want to get the most out of your seals, it's very important that when you put the rear and front covers on your LS engine, they are perfectly centered. A lot of guys like to use a straight edge on the oil pan rail and make sure that the cover is at the correct height and it's not cocked one way or the other. So if you line your rails up there, I think the factory spec is about 15 thousandths of an inch maximum gap. The only problem with that is that locates me up and down, but it doesn't locate me side to side. So there's a number of companies out there that are making seal installation tools, and Jeff Genther there at Fast Fish Auto Parts also makes some that he's designed for us. And basically, here's an example of a front one. What you would do is you would slide this over the snout on our crankshaft, then you'd take your front cover without a seal in it and put the cover on, and this will center in the housing. That keeps you perfectly concentric around the crankshaft. Once you bolt your cover down, you can pull this back out and then you can install your seal. He's got one for both the front and the rear, and you can check him out or you can give him a call on their website and get some of these. But at the end of the day, what I really wanted to know is, that's nice and they're cool, but do they really work? And so the best test that we could do was to take an engine and measure the change in vacuum without changing anything in the tune-up, without changing anything in the oil pump and how fast we're turning it. What we did is we took a dry sumped engine that used factory LS front and rear seals. We put it on the dyno and ran it. Then we unbolted the engine and slid it forward on the dyno. We didn't even take it off. We swapped out the covers with front and rear high vacuum seals and low friction, and then we went to see what would happen. So I'm going to take you guys over to the dyno with me and show you the results, because frankly, I was blown away. Come with me. Oh wow, so we're all done with our testing, and I gotta tell you, even I was surprised at how good these GST seals were. I knew they were gonna be better, but I didn't know how much better. Check it out. Over here what I have is the same engine test done with the wet sump system with no pan vac. Then we changed to the dry sump oiling system. We had the stock front LS rear main seal and front seal in it. It started out about 6 inches or so, brings it all the way down to about here. We'll look over here. We got about 10 inches of pan vac, and I thought, oh, that's pretty good. Maybe we'll be able to pick up a little bit with our new seals in addition to the lower friction. But wow, as soon as I started the engine, I immediately knew that we were in for something good and that these seals were going to be way better. I fired it up, it sat there and idled at almost 10 inches of pan vacuum at idle. As soon as I opened the throttle, this thing went immediately to 15 inches of pan vacuum, and it pretty much stayed there all the way till the end. By then we were almost at 16 inches of pan vacuum, a huge improvement over the factory seal. So if you're looking for a way to improve the performance of your LS-based engine, check out these GST seals from Fast Fish Auto Parts and Superior Bearings. They are worth the money.